So the last video I made, if you check the dates, was like about 8 months ago. So I'm really bad at making updates. I was 31 weeks pregnant last time I made a video. My son is currently 7 months. The last time we had talked, I was talking about the blood draw that I had done. I had the blood sugar glucose test done, and I was all excited that I did that successfully. And then I got a call back that I failed the test, and I had to go back for the 2-hour or 3-hour one. And I started like freaking out because I really hate needles. And so I was delaying going to the appointment. I wasn't going. And then when I would go back to the doctor appointment, they were like, so it shows that you still haven't had that test done. And I was like, yeah, I know. So I wanted to talk to my doctor about that and find out like how necessary it actually is. What are the risks of like not having it done? And so in the meantime, I had begun testing my blood sugar on the device that my husband has here at home because he's diabetic. And I was just keeping an eye on my blood sugar. And I was asking my doctor if that would be sufficient. Because at one point I actually started crying at my appointment because I started panicking. He's like, something tells me that you don't really want to have the test done for some reason. And I was like, I have this thing with needles, and I felt so dumb because I started crying. And he's like, it's okay, it's fine. He's like, I don't want to be the bad guy. He says, if you're testing your blood sugar at home on your finger and you'd rather do that, that's fine. And so he told me to test it in the morning, like before eating, and then after breakfast, after dinner, after lunch, and after dinner. And so I did that for a week, and when I brought back the results, he's like, all right, this one's a little bit high, this one's a little bit high, this one's a little bit high, just keep an eye on it, and I keep testing, try to just keep it within this range, and that was that. So I avoided having to get that extra test done because I kind of voiced my panic and anxiety about blood draws and needles, and that I was capable of doing the finger test myself, and he was okay with that. My final appointment ended up being the day before my son was born. The strange thing was my doctor didn't. I kept on forgetting to ask. You always like have these questions you want to ask your doctor, and then like you just forget when you get there. So I have to like do notes, and I had done some notes, and I just forgot to look at them. But I wanted to ask him to, check if I was dilated since my daughter came 3 weeks early, and I was already like approaching 3 weeks, and I just forgot to ask, and he just never checked. So when the day after the appointment, well, actually right after the appointment, I was getting a lot of Braxton Hicks and painful contractions, but they weren't consistent, so I just thought they were Braxton Hicks. So like I had a lot of them right after that appointment, like all that night, and I was on the phone with the insurance over a situation, and so like all that evening, all that night, they had slowed down and stopped enough that I was able to sleep that night. But I woke up in the morning to get my husband ready for work, and he asked me to get up to get him something. Like I had finally, I got to sit down after like making everything. Then he wanted to eat or drink something before he left, and he asked me to get up and get it. And when I stood up, my water didn't break. No, I felt like a bad contraction, and I was like, that one's like really hurt. And then like I would walk over and I would sit down, but like it wasn't like a whole lot more than what I'd already been getting, so it didn't really strike me too much until after my husband left for work. A few minutes later, over the following 15, 20, 30 minutes, I was like, these things are like a bit closer and a bit more intense. So I had had a scare earlier in my pregnancy. I forget if I had mentioned it in one of my past videos or not, where I was getting bad contractions and I was like nervous if I should come in, and they suggested that I chug some water, drink as much water as you can, and then relax. And if they haven't stopped in an hour, like come into the hospital. So I kept that in mind. I went and I drank a bunch of water, and then I laid down in the chair and I relaxed for a little while, and they didn't stop.
What happened?
I'm just going over all of the things that happened before Eli was born for a video so that I can look back on it later and remember things. That's
But
all.
why you said somebody was dying?
No, I didn't say anybody was dying. No, I think I was saying like the contractions weren't like really bad. Did I say I was dying? Nobody died. Nobody was dying. I'm talking about how painful the contractions were.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you for checking on me. My sweet angel of a 5-year-old. So like I laid down and they stopped. But yeah, so then this time around, like I tried that. Didn't work. So I called the hospital, and they were like, yeah, if you've tried that and they're still hurting, like you might want to pack your bags and come on in. And so I called my husband, and like I had told him earlier, I was like, just letting you know I'm timing contractions because they're getting like more painful and more consistent. He's like, okay, like do this, do that. Call the hospital, let me know. And so I called him, and he headed back home. I woke up my daughter, my mother-in-law, my husband's uncle, my husband's father. They were all here. And so they started like helping me like get stuff ready, and I had to keep on stopping in between to like breathe through contractions. Peeling chicken here, by the way. Chicken salad for my husband later. So yeah, my husband went to work at like, I think at that time he was leaving at like 4:30 in the morning or 5, something like that. 6. I don't even remember. I forget what time. Anyway, by the time we got to the hospital and I got checked in, it was like 7:30 when they like checked my contractions, and they were like, yeah, you're having contractions. And then they checked to see if I was dilated, and they were like, how far dilated were you when the doctor checked you? And I was like, he didn't. And they were like, he didn't? And I was like, no, he never checked me. They were like, because you're like 4 centimeters dilated. Like, they're like, you're having this baby today. And I was like, even though I knew in my mind there was like a definite possibility, as soon as they said that, I was like, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so they admitted me at 7:30, and my son was born at 3:02 that afternoon. It's crazy how it's like all such a blur when you go back and try to think about it. Everything happened so fast. They got me in, they had the IV set up, the epidural. I don't remember what time the epidural was done, but I was crying through that, not because of the pain, but my daughter was, she didn't want to leave me, and everyone had to leave the room for them to do the epidural, and I was just like kind of nervous, and I think she could sense it, and she started crying, and then I started crying. And then the doctor came in, and she was like, oh no, and I'm like, no, it's not like scared, I'm like, my daughter, she loves me, she didn't want to leave me, and she was crying, and now I'm crying. It's a mess. But all went well. Except the epidural stopped working. It was working fine, and then like they started getting more painful. My husband's like, I think you hit this button, which I still like. I want to believe that he was right, but for some reason I feel like maybe he was wrong. Maybe that button turned it off or something. Because soon after that, the medicine just like apparently it stopped pumping, and I was like in excruciating pain, yelling, screaming through the contractions, telling them like, help me, help me, help me. And they were like, the pump turned off. Yeah, it changed. But they got they turned the pump back on that pumped the medicine through the epidural, and it was taking forever to work. Like I felt them put in the catheter, and then through every contraction it was like moving, and it hurt a lot, and I was like, something's not right. Like I'm like, I don't think I should be feeling that. They're like, no, it's just the pressure. And I'm like, it's not pressure, it's pain. And it was taking forever for like the effects of the epidural to come back, and like they were like, you're 10 centimeters, it's gonna be time to push soon. And I was like, if the doctor gets in here and this medicine hasn't kicked back in, I was like, I can't do this. And they're like, yes you can. I'm like, no I can't. And they're like, yes you can. But fortunately it was like right before the doctor came in and it was time to push. It was like, ah. The epidural started working and I was able to push, but I didn't eat very much before leaving. Like in the commotion of everything, I was hungry when we left the house, but all I had was like a handful of animal crackers in the car. And it didn't feel like 8 hours since I had gotten to the hospital, so I wasn't realizing like, hey, like you're hungry and you have like no energy. You were asleep before you came here. And so yeah, when I was pushing, I was telling them that like I was feeling really weak, and I kind of like I was starting to feel like I was going to pass out. Like I didn't have enough energy and strength to push him out. And they were like, "Do you want some apple juice?" And I was like, "Please." And so the nurse brought me a cup of apple juice with a straw. So I was like itching my nose while I'm peeling chicken. And thankfully, yeah, that did help. And I don't know how many pushes it took. I didn't count, but oh. So his name is Eli, but we switched. Yeah, it's Isaac Eli. It's not Eli Isaac. It's Isaac Eli Isaac. Isaac Eli. His name is Isaac Eli, but we go back and forth. We call him Eli more than Isaac, I think. But yeah, he's been doing really well. And I guess that was pretty much it for completing my pregnancy updates. Even though, like, information-wise, I don't have a bump to show you because my bump is, like, completely gone. But I'll have to do another video. I guess I'll do a separate video for information, catching you up on stuff about him since he was born and issues, little mini issues that we've had and overcome with him since he's been born. He's absolutely perfect right now. But yeah, so that is what's up. That's what happened. I think I've covered everything, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.